We're joined by Joanne Littman, Yale University lecturer and a CNBC contributor. Good morning. We've all been sort of whiplashed by the back and forth between this changing relationship between the U.S. and China. And the big question, I think, has been how concerned multinational businesses are supposed to be about backlash from China, but maybe increasingly from Western countries, including the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. We are in an incredibly perilous moment right now in this relationship with China. I was talking to a China expert just yesterday who said to me, alarm bells are going off. And if companies are not hearing this, they need to be aware of it. I mean, you know, it's not just the balloon, which is in the headlines now. It's the mounting concerns about repression on the ground in China since the pandemic. It's TikTok concerns on both sides of the political aisle. It's concerns about Taiwan, China's intentions in Taiwan. And I do think it's a really overlooked data point. These protests that were in China in the fall, these mostly students holding up white pieces of paper. A lot of them have been disappeared. You know, I teach at a university with multinational students. There's a lot of Asian, Chinese students in America. And I know that they're fearful that they're being spied on for what they say about what's going on in China and how it could hurt their families. So there's a lot of issues well beyond the balloon. And we are in probably the most fraught moment since the Cold War. OK, so what I think maybe everybody doesn't appreciate the risks at play, but given what you know, what is the answer? Which is to say, let's start with companies that are already doing business in China. And there's different kinds of companies doing business in China. So a tech company might be in a different category than a financial services company, which might be in a different category than a Starbucks. Yes. OK, so this is a really great question because it's so intertwined in China in so many different levels, right? There's the consumer level, there's the B2B level, there's the supply chain level. And so each one is going to require different considerations here. But I think the bottom line for any company that is going in fresh or coming back in to China and trying to rev up business there is really going to be, you know, do you have a plan B? Are you aware of what the geopolitical risks are? And is there a tipping point? And if there is a tipping point, what is that tipping point for you? How do you though make distinctions, if you do, between tech and, as I said, like a Nike or a Starbucks? Is that different to you? Yeah, I mean, clearly the tech issues are going to be much more complex, complicated. There's more of the, you know, the national security issues. We saw several companies being sanctioned last week after the balloon. So clearly in the tech sector, I think we're going to be seeing actually a lot more pressure. The pressure right now, we have bipartisan pressure on TikTok. And you can imagine a situation where we go from TikTok to other technologies, and particularly as we get to know more about what the spy balloon was and how they're using data, how they're using technology here in the United States, you could definitely see an increase in pressure. You know, we haven't seen sort of the overwhelming pressure that we saw when Russia invaded Ukraine, but you could imagine an increase in pressure against those technology companies. Would you predict, if you straight up, do you think if we are having this conversation 6 months from now, 12 months from now, you can pick your timeline, that TikTok is on my phone or not on my phone by a government measure? I am not in the business of making predictions, so I'm going to pass on that one. But what I would say is I do think that there's increasing pressure so that I would imagine we are going to see some move that is going to have an impact on TikTok. And not just on TikTok, though, Andrew. I think we're going to see this on other technologies. We're going to be doing more of a deep dive and pressure into how integrated, how intertwined Chinese technology is here in the U.S. And I would imagine we're going to kind of see some pullback and some increasing pressure, consumer pressure, political pressure to try and extricate ourselves technologically from China.